We'll be opening the bids this evening, but we'll be coming back to the board at a subsequent meeting to request any approval of contracts or anything like that. So next one we've got is from, who's this from? Oh, DELV Design. They're based out of Indianapolis as well. Looks like their total phase one fee comes in at $34,000, and they've got up to $2,000 in reimbursable expenses. That first proposal I opened from Synthesis for $34,800. Theirs included the reimbursable expenses in the $34,800. So I'll leave that up to other people to look into those. Next up, we've got Axis Architecture, and they're based out of Indianapolis as well. Looks like theirs comes in at $45,000. Axis Architecture. Only about 5 more, it looks like. Next up, we've got Shive Hattery out of South Bend.
You're doing great, Adam.
I appreciate the encouragement.
We feel your pain.
I know.
It's one of the more challenging aspects of these meetings.
Gotta open like 3 envelopes just to get to the final one. All right, again, this is Shive Hattery out of South Bend. Their cost proposal. I don't know that they submitted the correct thing. Okay, so phase 1 here looks like their phase 1 total comes in at $52,731. Next up, we've got Spring Point, and they're out of Bloomington. All right, it's just a never-ending envelope opening. All right, we got Spring Point, Architects PC. They're saying flat fee of $16,000 for phase 1. And, oh, looks like we got one left here. All right, yep, one left, and this is going to be from Martin Riley is who this one's going to be from. All right, looks like Martin Riley. architects and engineers for the schematic design and probable cost phase. They came in at $15,500. So I'm going to be turning all of these documents over to JD Boroff and Jason Moore with the fire department. They'll review all the submittals to make sure they have all the correct information, and then probably come back at either the next board meeting or the board meeting in 1 month from now to request a contract with the board. So we've got all of those open, and we'll be taking that up at a subsequent meeting. So I'll turn it back over to you, Kyla.
Thank you.
Take a deep breath, Adam.
Moisturize your hands. All right. So petitions and remonstrances is next on the agenda. We do have 2 items that fall under that agenda item. But before we move to those 2 scheduled items, I do want to open it up for anyone who has public comment on anything that is not on our agenda this evening. So something not represented on the agenda. If anyone's here to make a public comment that regard, now is the opportunity to do so.
I don't see anything coming through, Kyla.
All right, hearing none. First up under petitions and remonstrances is appeal trash citation number 46577 for 1203 North Lincoln, Unit A.
I believe we've got Norm Mosier and Chris Wheeler here.
Actually, I think this is Daniel Dixon. I'm covering this one tonight.
Oh, Daniel's got this. Okay.
I think is our appellant here tonight?
I believe we have.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's Gavin?
Yeah, I'm here on Brett Abbott filed it. I'm here on behalf of him.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're not the actual appellant. This isn't. You are not Brett Abbott?
I mean, no, I'm not. He's in class right now. I'm a resident of 1203 North Lincoln as well.
Okay. I'll let Daniel sort through that. But Daniel, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Actually, I would defer to the appellant at this point just to let them state their case, and then I might have Norm follow up, and then I may have some questions as well. So I'll go ahead and let Mr. Powell go ahead.
Okay.
So, yeah, my name is Gavin Powell, resident of 1203 North Lincoln, apartment A. Here on behalf of Brett Abbott, it's basically all identifiable trash was on the city-owned parkway, meaning that we did not suffer or permit any garbage to be placed or deposited on the premises owned, occupied, or controlled by the residents. So no trash was found on our property. Nobody from our house threw or placed or scattered anything, which is the first clause of the section 6.06.020. And likely the garbage blew there from down the street. It was impossible for us to have proactively picked up the trash on the parkway since the garbage was not there the previous day and likely blew near our property the morning of the citation.
Thank you.
Norm, do you want to go ahead and just present your background and history with this property?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, in the past, I have ticketed the property for trash and trash cans at the curb. And in this particular incident, I ticketed that particular unit because their trash can had their address on it, and there was trash on the ground in close proximity to the trash can. And it was in the tree plot area. And they are responsible to clean the property and remove their cans after trash is picked up. So therefore, they received a citation with a fine.
Norm, has this unit previously received any sort of warning for trash?
Yes, sir. On several different occasions, I've ticketed the property for trash and cans at the curb.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
May I interject?
Yeah, you're welcome to make a comment.
Yes. we moved in August 23rd of this year, and we have not received any other formal citations or warnings on our property, on our front door. This is the first one. It was an automatic fine, which I would like to make clear.
This is Adam Wason here. I'll just read from the record in the board packet. There was, looks like we issued on 8/14 warnings at that location. And then again on, looks like we issued fines on 10/15.
So we were not residents at that time.
Just, is there more from city staff on this report, or are we ready for board questions?
I just have some comments, and just to provide some background. There was an argument made by the appellant that the trash was not on their own personal property. I do want to cite the board to the language from the ordinance, which also includes, I'll just read it. It says it is unlawful for any person to throw, place, or scatter any garbage, recyclable materials, or yard waste over or upon any premises, street, alley, either public or private, or to suffer such. So the argument that it's not necessarily on their specific private property doesn't fall in line with the language of the ordinance. That there is trash there scattered throughout. It's visible from the photographs, and it would support the staff finding that there was a violation of the ordinance here.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
I have a question. Since they just moved in the end of August and this is their first citation, is it possible that you could give them a warning instead of a fine, since this is their first, and they appealed it immediately after the citation was
And actually, if I can follow up on Beth's question for
Sure.
Norm and for Daniel. Norm, would you, and I guess it's kind of twofold, but in line with what Beth's asking, Mr. Powell, when did your lease begin on the property?
August 23rd of 2020.
So you guys didn't have a August 1st start date or anything. It was August. Your actual lease says August 23rd.
Yes, it does. I could provide it if needed.
Okay. And then Norm, for you, if this was a property with new tenants, we issued a warning on August 14th, which would have probably been previous tenants. Would the new tenants normally get a warning in this situation, or would it just kind of go with the property that the properties had warnings in the past, or is it based on the tenants?
Normally, our protocol is to issue tickets to each unit on the property.
Okay.
And they can figure that out later, who's guilty or responsible or whatever.
But what I'm saying in terms of the warrant, is the standard practice to issue a warning for new tenants and then on the second violation issue the fine, or do we issue fines, that when we find the trash?
It depends on the severity of the situation. But
Okay. What would you be supportive of in this situation, Norm?
if they will keep the property clean, I don't have a problem with waiving the fine.
And go into a
In the
warning?
future, if they mind the property,
Mm-hmm.
I would be okay with that.
Okay. So I suppose I would make a recommendation to the board then, given that they weren't in the property when the first warnings were issued August 14th, is we convert this to a warning And, Norm, as part of his normal routes and routines, will follow up, make sure they're abiding. And just for the resident to understand as well. So city code also requires you to remove your city trash carts from the curb 24 hours within of your day of trash service. So do remember to pull those back to the house. And even if stuff's blown into the yard and such, if you guys can just help try to keep the neighborhood clean when that happens, that's what we'd be looking for as well. And then just a further reminder, if your trash can lids aren't ever fully closed on your trash day, those won't get picked up. So make sure your lids get closed. And then I'll turn it back over to the board.
Thanks. So, Adam, you did bring up an issue that I also wanted to clarify, which is that it looks like, not only did the city issue fines because of the scattered trash, there was the $15 fine for the cans at the curb, which is not something that can be appealed. Right. Is that I'm correct on that, right? We're only reviewing the $50 fine.
Citation.
That's correct. The Board of Public Works doesn't have jurisdiction on the fines for cans at the curb. That's a circuit court issue as it reads in the ordinance.
Thank you. Other questions from the board on this item?
No, I think that's
question, but one comment too. I don't know if this was the property or not, but another helpful thing is to mark like which units are associated with which cans. So if somebody else that lives in that building is not being responsible, you won't get in trouble for that, and vice versa. So that's just another suggestion.
Alrighty.
So now a procedural question for the board. It sounds like the recommendation from staff at this point is to consider this as a warning as opposed to a fine. From a motion perspective, if the board prepares to support that recommendation, is this upholding the appeal, or is this something different that we need to do?
I'll defer to Daniel there or Jackie. I think my take would be that if you just made a motion to move the fine to a warning, I think that should be sufficient. If Daniel or Jackie disagrees, let me know.
I agree, since I think it's not quite the substance of the appeal, but it's also not quite the proposal from staff. It's in between. I would suggest that would be the motion.
Yep, perfect.
Thank you.
But could we, excuse me, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wondered if we should, since it is a citation, should we uphold the appeal and then add change the, to a warning, the citation to a warning? Should we do both of those within the?
I think you just change it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it makes the most sense, at least from my perspective and from the advice of the council, is that we actually change this to a warning, because an appeal would kind of mean something different. Like if we were to uphold the appeal, I feel like that would be saying that, they were wrongfully fined, and we're not really,
okay.
That doesn't seem to be the perspective, at least that's been expressed.
Yes, okay. Yeah, no, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the board, or any remaining issues that need to be mentioned by staff? All right. Is there a motion from the board on this item?
I move that we change the fine to a warning on this initial citation.
Second.
1203 North Lincoln.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, next up, we have appeal trash citation number 46656 at 416 North Lincoln, apartment 2.
All right, looks like we have the appellant, Sam Lyon, is here. Looks like Sam is off mute. Sam, if you'd like to explain your appeal, I think that's what Daniel would defer to at this point. So
Yes,
Sam,
please.
if you would like to go ahead and explain your appeal, and then staff can make their case.
All right. My name is Sam Lyon. I'm the resident of 416 North Lincoln Street, apartment 2. There are 2 trash cans on this property for all 8 units in this household. My apartment unit is on the front of the building where the trash cans are placed. The trash cans were full, and one of the other unit renters placed a trash bag next to the trash can. I do not understand why I'm the one being fined for this, all because the trash cans go next to my apartment unit. I've never had a trash citation or warning before receiving this citation.
Thank you.
Norm, would you like to go ahead and give some background on this property?
Yes, sir. On a previous occasion prior to the citation that the individuals received, I noticed trash can and some trash sitting out by the apartment at number 2. And I stopped and knocked on the door and spoke with an individual at that address and asked him if he would resolve the issue. And he immediately resolved the issue. It wasn't the gentleman who is present tonight. And then when they received the citation, it was due to cans at the curb and trash once again. And I observed trash cans from other units around the side of the building and at the rear of the building. And also 3 of the units are vacant. So all the trash cans seem to be accounted for. And these were the only cans sitting in front of this unit. And so therefore I issued a citation due to, excuse me, non-compliance.
Norm, if I could ask you a question, do these particular trash and recycling bins, do they have identifiers that show which unit they belong to?
Yes, they have numbers on each trash can assigned to each property in the city.
Well, I guess more specifically for this trash can, does it say like unit A, B, or 1 or 2 on it?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, that's all I had.
All right, questions from the board on this item?
So we really don't know that that was Sam Lyon's trash can? If he's saying that he doesn't have waste around his, is that true? Or do we know for sure it was his trash can?
I can now actually prove that it was his trash can.
And just to clarify the issue, I think it sounds like there are a couple trash carts for this property, and the tenants of the property place their trash in a couple carts. Is that an accurate description? So it's, even if we were to look at what the city had assigned to the properties, really what we're seeing is like a communal use of the carts. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct for these trash cans.
Okay. Other questions on this item?
Kyle, if I could just, I guess I do have one more comment just to make as regards to the question about responsibility for these. Looking at Municipal Code 6.06.070A, it does say for purposes of issuing a notice of violation, and this is talking about garbage, but for purposes of a notice of violation, the following persons shall be considered responsible parties with liability for fines and responsible for remedy of the violation. And that would include any person with a possessory interest in the property, the property owners and also any person that causes a violation. So there's a large class of people that are responsible for the violation, and so it doesn't necessarily require we pinpoint exactly which individual the issue lies with. They can figure that out too amongst themselves.
Thank you. Other questions from the board?
Have they had a citation before, this particular apartment complex?
No, they have not.
And so why didn't this have a warning instead of a fine?
Due to
I
the
think
fact
that's
that I
what-
spoke to a resident at that property the week prior to them receiving the citation.
And
Okay.
Norm, can I ask to follow up there? So you kind of considered that your verbal warning, but was the person you spoke to in the same unit as Mr. Lyon?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I spoke
so
to an individual in unit 2.
I'm the only person that lives here, so he already said it wasn't me, so I don't know what he's talking about.
Okay.
but you spoke to somebody in unit 2, Norm.
Yes, sir. I assumed he was a tenant, but I do not know. But may I say in the future that if Mr. Lyons would write his address on his trash cans, that will help cut down on any confusion?
Sure.
It's not my trash can alone, though. It's communal.
Yeah, I think just offer a comment more than a question. I think that the complicating factor here, as Mr. Dixon also pointed out, is that this becomes more of like a tenant issue than it is a city issue. So there may be a tenant who's responsible on the property, but the city might not be able to identify who that is, and the city issues the citation based on its ordinance, which really opens it up to anyone who is residing or has an interest in the property, whether it's the owner of the property or someone who's renting property there. And so it does sound like this is something that is probably going to need to be addressed among the tenants and potentially with the landlord or the owner of the property, because it might be something that happens, repeatedly, unfortunately, and is something that the city is not going to be able to discern from the outside. I think I'm characterizing that accurately. Adam, does that sound accurate?
That's quite accurate, yes. Yeah, and I'll just, even to further that comment, Kyle, these situations are difficult because you can't exactly identify, but all tenants on that property need to work together, especially if they're using communal trash cans. You need to work with your landlord to identify if you need more trash cans and to identify them for specific units. But our purview is to drive by, see an overflowing recycling cart that has a bunch of trash in it, trash in the yard. And I do appreciate, Norm, it's an approach I often take too, is where I knock on the door, say, hey, can we get this cleaned up? But if we have repeated violations, we're going to issue those fines. And like Mr. Dixon said, at that point in time, it's amongst the property owners or the tenants and the property owner to figure out, hey, how do we keep this from happening? That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other remaining questions from the board or any further comments from staff?
I just like the idea of them all getting together and talking about this and then working with the landlord on this. But in the meantime, I would like to wonder if we could also call this a warning this time instead of a citation and a fine, or with a fine.
Yeah, I think that would be to the board's discretion.
Adam, are you talking to us or someone else?
Weighing in on
Sorry.
this. Mhm.
Sorry, I apologize. Off mute now. Beth, I do appreciate that perspective. I think from a staff perspective, what I would support is upholding the fine, knowing that we had knocked on the door the week before and asked for remedy of this, knowing it was repeated over the course of 2 weeks. And would offer to Mr. Lyon to really work with his the other tenants and the landlord to figure out if everybody could pitch in on the fine and how that could be resolved.
Okay.
But of course, it's up to the board to determine the course of action.
So you're recommending denying the appeal?
That would be my recommendation, knowing that we had stopped at the
Okay.
property the week before.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there a motion from the board on this item?
I move that we deny the appeal for trash citation number 46656 at 416 North Lincoln.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda is the approval of minutes for October 13th of 2020. We have resolution 2020-54, approve disposal of surplus property for parking enforcement. Approve extension of resolution 2020-28, temporary closure of Kirkwood to expand existing seating encroachments. Approve outdoor lighting service agreement for Atwater Avenue from Highland to Mitchell with Duke Energy. Approve outdoor lighting service agreement for Showers Complex Phase 1 and 2 with Duke Energy. Approve 2021 service agreements for maintenance and repair at city facilities, and approval of the payroll register. Do we have any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda this evening? Hearing none. Is there any public comment on any of the items within the consent agenda? Hearing none and
Don't
seeing
see
none.
any.
Is there a motion from the board on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, under new business, first is approve memorandum of understanding with CBU for construction cost sharing on the 7th Street Bike Lane Improvements Project.
Good evening, Neil Copper, Planning and Transportation. As part of the 7th Street Bike Lane Improvements Project, the City of Bloomington Utilities Department would like to install green stormwater infrastructure beyond what is required by the project. So this MOU outlines the funding requirements for those improvements. They're estimated at a cost up to $150,000. Chris Wheeler is also here to discuss the MOU further. I believe that the MOU was executed by the Utilities Board already. Staff recommends approval of the MOU and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board on this item?
Is there a construction contract date? Is it going to start this year? Or are you going to wait until spring?
Construction will wait until next year. We're expecting most of the work to be during the summer of 2021.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the MOU with CBU for construction cost sharing on the 7th Street Bike Lane Improvement Project.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Next is approved preliminary engineering contract with VS Engineering, Inc. for the First Street reconstruction project.
Neil Copper again. This is a project to reconstruct West First Street between Fairview and College. We do know that work may extend as far west as Patterson or as far east as Walnut, depending on detailed design and what's required in particular for underground utilities. The project is expected to include full roadway reconstruction, replacement of underground utilities, and replacement of the traffic signal at the College and First Street intersection. The project is programmed in the MPO's Transportation Improvement Plan, and it is scheduled for construction funding up to nearly $3 million at an 80% federal funding match. Construction is anticipated to begin in 2023. VS Engineering was selected from 9 engineering firms that responded to an RFI to perform the preliminary engineering services for the project. The total contract amount is set at a not to exceed of $720,959.03. Funding for the contract does require approval by the Redevelopment Commission, and we're scheduled to go to that commission on Monday. Staff recommends that the board approve the preliminary engineering contract, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
Neil, will this work by VS Engineering begin right away with the engineering contract approved? Will they start working on the design right away?
Yeah, so we'll have to wait to issue notice to proceed until the funding is approved next week. But VS is basically already starting. They're already scheduling their topographic survey to get started.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, and just following on that, we had discussed in the work session that this design will have to work closely with the final design for the redevelopment of that property to meet the needs of that redevelopment, and that would be ongoing throughout the whole process. Other questions on this item? Any public comment on this item? I think that Adam was saying he sees none. I see none.
I see none. There's none in the chat, no raised hands.
All right. Is there a motion from the board?
Go ahead. I move that we approve preliminary engineering contract with VS Engineering, Inc. for the First Street reconstruction project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have approved construction inspection contract with American Structure Point, Inc. for the Jackson Creek Trail Phase 2 project.
Good evening. This is Roy Ayton with the Planning and Transportation Department. This will be a construction inspection agreement for a project that will construct the multi-use path from the South Sarah multi-use path at Roar Road, westward along Roar Road, across Jackson Creek, and then northward along the creek to the south end of the existing Jackson Creek Trail in Short Oaks Park. Additionally, an extension in the path along the east side of High Street from the roundabout at High Winslow Rogers up to Arden Drive, and then on Arden Drive to Southeast Park. The project has been placed in the MPO tip, and with construction engineering, the inspection contract will have an 80-20 split. In the late summer, the city advertised an RFP for qualified firms throughout Indiana, from which American Structure Point, Inc. was selected to perform the construction inspection for this project. And the compensation for this inspection services is set at not to exceed $224,460.64. The contract itself will be letting in February of this year, and we anticipate construction to begin in spring of 2021. And staff has reviewed the contract, and we are making a recommendation for approval.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item? Any public comment on this item?
I see none in the chat or any raised hands.
Thank you. Do we have a motion from the board?
I move approval of the construction inspection contract with American Structure Point, Inc. for the Jackson Creek Trail Phase 2 project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have approved request for right-of-way at 318 through 320 West 3rd Street by Gillette General Contractors from November 2nd of 2020 to July 1st of 2021.
This is located at the southwest corner of
I think we might have lost you, Sarah. Are you still there?
Connection issues there. Let me get to the staff report. Hey, Sarah, you may try to reconnect. I'll go ahead and do the, oh, my phone thought I said, hey, Siri. I'll go ahead and read Sarah's staff report. But this is a construction project that needs to use the public right-of-way along East 3rd Street for various aspects of the construction project. It will include a walk around in the southern lane of East 3rd Street, which will be closed to traffic. Almost there.
It looks like we might have her back, Adam, maybe.
Oh, here we go. She's trying to get back in again.
Yeah, maybe she's frozen. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I was trying to save you.
Yep.
But go ahead.
How far down? And so this is Gillette Contractors that are requesting this. Like I said, there will be an eastbound, the eastbound lane of 3rd Street would be closed, and they would put a walk around there. I think they would be doing some unloading and loading. Tom, are you here? Can you bail me out while I'm looking for the staff report?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thanks, Tom.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So
Yeah, we can hear you.
we've submitted, I think, 3 or 4 exhibits there because we won't be using like the 3rd Street walk around is just for a short period of time when we're working on that side of the road. I think the biggest thing is on Grant Street, we're wanting to close the parking lane next to the construction site for the duration of the project, and we will have a walk around in that parking lane during the majority of the construction. Then when we're working on that side of the building, which I think we've given you dates for each one of these steps of the project, when we're working on that side of the building, we will move the walk around out into the southbound lane and close the southbound lane as well. So that'll give us the staging area to unload wall panels, brick masonry, set up scaffold and so forth to do all of the work on that side of the building. Whenever we're not using or trying to work on that side of the building, we will move that pedestrian walkway back into the parking lane on that side of the road. The work on 3rd Street, I think, occurs later in on the project, maybe in the May time.
Towards the end of the project is kind of when that 3rd Street goes in to effect.
So I think we've given you kind of dates on,
Yeah.
each piece of the work there. This one got a little complicated because we're wanting to do different parts of it at different times rather than just closing it down for the entire duration of the job. The other part of it was the alley that's to the backside of the property. We're wanting to close that during the duration of construction. That alley really, there's only residential property to the other side of the alley, and there is a couple small commercial pieces to the west of there, but they will all have access from the west coming east to get to those. The property directly to the west really doesn't have much traffic at all. And we're actually trying to work out a deal with that owner to lease the 4 parking spaces behind his building. That's how little traffic he gets. So I think that kind of covers everything that we're asking for.
Yeah, Sarah, I think Sarah's unmuted as well now, but yeah, thank you, Tom. That does. And we do have, we have several different applications for the lane closures that are based on those specific dates. So I know Sarah was working very closely with Tom and his team to, come to agreement on how to, stage and, move things as needed to make sure we were being as, to limit restriction as much as possible. So we appreciate that, Tom.
We did get our certified notices out to all the adjoining neighbors as well, and have received most of those back, the receipts. So we know they got out.
Sarah, you want to add anything else?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
There you are.
I didn't catch everything you said because I left and came back in.
I think we're all set. I think
I don't think I have anything.
Tom bailed me out big time.
Yeah, thanks. I apologize. I have a wonky connection this evening, I guess.
Good.
All right, questions from the board.
I know there are a lot of different pieces to this and different dates. Will the overall dates be from November 2nd of this year until July 1st of 21? Is that the inclusive dates of the whole project?
That's correct.
Okay. I wonder about signage. There's so many different closures and at different times. You will be taking care of signage for all of those things so that the public knows what to expect coming up.
Yeah, those were part of our exhibits as well. So we've got different signage for the different durations of the different aspects of the closures.
Yeah, so the maintenance of traffic plan lists all of those things, Beth, and that's part of what you're approving this evening.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions from the board? All right. I would just offer the comment of thanks for working through this plan so that there was, accommodation for the walkarounds and allowing pedestrians to travel through that area in a safe way during this project, since especially given that it's on a major artery, that adds a lot of complications when it comes to changing the access to the right of way. And so I just appreciate all the effort that Gillette and staff went through to get that to be as good as it possibly could be during the project. All right, if there are no other board questions, is there any public comment?
I do not see any. And I don't know that we have any members of the public here right now.
All right, is there a motion from the board?
I move that we approve the request for right-of-way use at 318, 320 West 3rd Street by Gillette General Contractors, November 2nd, 2020 through July 1st of 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Next up, we have approve amendment to purchase agreement with E1 for aerial fire apparatus.
I'm Jennifer Lloyd from the legal department, and the board approved a contract between the fire department and Fire Service Incorporated for the purchase of an aerial fire truck, about $1.1 million to be delivered in January. Since that time, the fire department has taken a rescue pumper out of service. It's their unit 340, which was recently declared surplus property. Fire Service Incorporated has agreed to take it in trade-in for an agreed value of $150,000. So what you have in front of you right now is just an amendment to the original agreement that adjusts the purchase price to take the trade-in into consideration, and also lists certain conditions that Fire Service Incorporated wants to have the trade-in vehicle in at the time that they take possession. Have any questions?
Thanks. Questions from the board?
Delivery is expected in January of 2021.
Correct.
Okay, it's coming soon. Good, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Any public comment on this item?
I see none.
Is there a motion from the board on this item?
I move that we approve amendment to purchase agreement with E1 for aerial fire apparatus.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up is approve renewal of contracts for primary and secondary asphalt suppliers with Milestone Contractors LP and E&B Paving Inc.
Yes, good evening again. Adam Wason, Board of Public Works Director, and we are just asking for a renewal of our asphalt purchasing terms with both E&B or with Milestone and E&B Paving as our backup. And this would just be a continuation of our contract that we entered into last year, and would be a renewal at the rates in which are outlined in the packet. So we are requesting your approval to move forward with these renewals.
Questions from the board on this item?
Adam, is this for the next year?
Yes, this will be for
The renewal
2021.
contract for a year. 21.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any public comment on this item?
I do not see any, and I don't believe we have any public still on the meeting.
All right. Any, I'm sorry, is there a motion from the board?
I move approval of the renewal of contracts for the primary and secondary asphalt suppliers with Milestone Contractors LP and E&B Paving Inc. respectively.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have approved cooperation services agreement program partnership with Big Boys Moving LLC in conjunction with Made Up Minds.
Adam Wason again. So this agreement will be with Big Boys Moving LLC in conjunction with a nonprofit that they assist to in operating. That's Made Up Minds. And so what this would be is part of the Recover Forward program that was passed earlier this year by our city council to provide funding for different recovery activities. This falls in line with the direct support and employment programs that we were looking to move forward. So Made Up Minds is a nonprofit that assists folks with reentry. And Big Boys Moving, their leadership team is on the board of directors for Made Up Minds. So this would be to provide staffing for the Brighton B-Town program. This is a program where we do general maintenance and cleanliness activities, whether it's cleaning curb lines, painting curbs, painting fire hydrants, doing different things like that. And so this contract would be for an amount not to exceed $50,000. The staff that would be the staff members of Big Boys Moving and Made Up Minds would not be employees of the city. Their employment would be through those two entities and would their compensation, work arrangements, and things like that would be coordinated there. They would provide the staff to the city for that would be managed by JD Boroff and our facilities team. So great. We're excited about this to, be able to get this direct employment out there into the, to benefit the city, and we'll probably start this up if it gets approved here in the next several weeks. So we're excited to move this forward. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. Questions from the board on this item?
Are Big Boys Moving LLC and Made Up Minds local
Yes,
companies?
Yeah, so Big Boys Moving.
I hadn't heard about them. Yeah.
Yeah, Big Boys Moving, AJ and his team there have been around for several years and approached us about this concept. And then when we realized we were going to have some resources to do it, they expressed further interest, and we were able to work and negotiate with them. That not to exceed amount would include some things like, safety gear, maybe some possible equipment, not equipment, but like tools and things like that. But again, yeah, they would be employees of Big Boys Moving.
And is this contract being utilized in 2021, or does it start right now?
It'll start right now. It starts now, but we'll encumber some of the funds to continue into 2021. And I believe there's additional funding in 2021's budget to keep it. So we're hoping for a full, 14 or 16 month project here.
All right. Thank you. Sounds good.
Other questions from the board?
Would the goal be to have them transition to city employees?
It's possible, so that's one of the great things about these programs is, and I should have said this in the beginning, we're basing this on a program that Parks and Rec has started with Centerstone in years past. Their landscape crews and some of the crews that work out at the golf course are Centerstone clients, and that's been a real successful model. And I do believe we have brought a few of those folks from that program into whether it's seasonal part-time employment with the city. But yes, that's the whole goal here, is to provide them job skills, job training, things like, just being on time, working in a professional way, things like that. So that's all part of the whole program.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from the board on this item?
No.
Any public comment on this item? Even though I can definitely see now that there are no members of the public here in our meeting. Well, on the off chance.
There are none. I wish the cats guys would just jump in every now and again with some public comment just to keep us on our toes.
They'd have probably the most informed questions after watching hours and hours and hours of meetings. All right. With no public comment, is there a motion from the board on this item?
I move that we approve cooperation services agreement program partnership with Big Boys Moving LLC in conjunction with Made Up Minds.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up is approve cooperation services agreement program partnership with Centerstone.
Again, Adam Wason. I won't go into a ton of detail here. It's the exact same thing we just described with Big Boys Moving and Made Up Minds, but this would be a partnership with Centerstone for the exact same thing. This Centerstone has expressed an interest in having more capacity to be able to provide more staff members for this project. So the not to exceed amount with Centerstone would be $100,000. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
These are all living wage positions, right? I know you mentioned that yesterday. I just thought that was important.
Yes, yeah. So these will, the way the contract outlines that the employees or the clients of both Big Boys or Centerstone would need to be paid at the minimum level of the current living wage, which I think is like $13.69 for Bloomington currently per hour.
Other questions? All right. Just for good measure, I'll call for any public comment.
I don't see any.
I see none. Is there a motion from the board on this item?
Move approval of the Cooperation Services Agreement Program Partnership with Centerstone.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have staff reports and other business.
Again, Adam Wason, Public Works Director. Just real briefly tonight, I want to talk about leafing season coming up here. We'll be starting that on Monday, November 9th. Making some slight modifications as we've talked about through the budget process and such. Really going to focus in on our communication efforts to make sure neighborhoods know exactly when we are headed their way, both with yard signs. We'll have an interactive map online. We'll use social media, other avenues to just get as much communication out as possible with that. We'll be making one trip through each neighborhood and really trying to make sure folks know exactly when we'll be there. We just want to remind folks, we need folks to put piles together. We're not going to just rake every tree plot and everything else. We need to, what we'll focus our efforts on are vacuuming up the piles of leaves. We ask that you keep them out of the street and not put them into the actual street for collection, but leave them either in the tree plot or in a pile that's easily visible for our collecting crews. Last thing we want is the storm drains to clog up and such. So leafing season's coming up forward here November 9th, and then just want to say thanks to the staff in Public Works. Each and every one of our divisions is continuing to be hard at work and doing all the things that are required of us. We're seeing some pretty good data on COVID numbers here locally, but we've seen in the state that we're now over 2,000 COVID cases each and every day, which is higher than we've ever been. So I just appreciate our staff really being out there doing all they can to stay safe and continue providing the services we do. And then just want to remind the public, we're not through this yet by any means. We've got a winter coming up that's going to be probably a longer winter than we all want with COVID and all of the side effects of that. So do what you can for your fellow human. Wear your mask, take all your precautions, wash your hands, use the hand sanitizer, and continue to refrain from large gatherings. So just want to keep putting that out there for everybody. We gotta get through this. So thank you.
Thanks.
This is Jackie from City Legal, and I would like to ask the board, you recall that you guys sign the signature pages for large projects before those plans get submitted. And Strand Associates, Inc. did the construction inspection for the crosswalk improvements project, and they need to get those plans turned in. And I would ask if you would authorize the use of your signature stamp so that the title page can be completed. So if you would agree, if you would just, you can say, or you can send it to me, but if you just say it, I can go forward from that.
Is this a document that we, like the original document had been approved at a past meeting, or is there a way that we can see the copy of the document?
All they send at this point is the title page. It's just a signature page, that great big page that would get brought to your table basically for signature. It's all of the plans from their construction inspection work that they have to submit. We don't have that, but there was a construction inspection contract that was done several months ago, but that just says that they would be doing the work, on this project. It wouldn't necessarily have the details as far as what they're going to be turning in now with the signature page, title page. If you would like to see, I'm sure it's a lot of pages. If you would like, I can get Neil Copper to send it to review any of it.
Yeah, I was just, I guess even just the front signature page would be good to, I mean, I'm assuming it's pretty basic. And then if anyone happens to have the date of the original agreement that we entered into, that would be helpful for me. And then I'm happy to authorize my stamp.
Well, after the meeting, I'll get it off the Public Works contracts and I'll forward it to the three of you. But as far as seeing that title page, it has nothing but a place for your three signatures. You know, it just calls it title page. But if you would like, I will see about having the pages forwarded to you that would be attached to that title page.
Okay, yeah, if it's already in an electronic format, then that would be great to see that. If that's a problem, if converting it to an electronic format is a problem, that's fine. It just helps me to see and I see Michael's got the date, it looks like, for that meeting. So it just helps me to refresh my memory on what the work was.
Right. And if you recall last time, we were trying to forward this back and forth and get different signatures, and we wound up with, kind of messy looking pages that had been forwarded and executed multiple times. So I'm happy to send you the documents, but then if you'd authorize the stamps, that would be the easiest way to take care of that page.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That sounds good. Does anyone else have any questions or requests on that item?
So is this just
Does
like,
she want our okay tonight? Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I'm just like, can you, like, what exactly are we signing? I still didn't catch that.
It's a title page basically that covers all the work that Strand did in their construction inspection. And they have, since this is an NDOT project, they have to submit all of that paperwork, and the title page is what goes on top of it. But I'm happy to forward you the contracts. And then if you want, you can just respond by email and that you approve using your stamps. And if you do, if you could also copy April on those so she will know, and because she has them, she can handle that for us.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And Jackie, has Strand completed their work? They've completed the work, or just?
Well, I mean, they're done it getting this. I couldn't tell you exactly. Neil had just said he had heard from Strand that they were at the point of, I think, completing this part anyway. And these were submitted.
And they need to submit that. Okay, just, get it off to us. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other items for staff report? Next up is claim, and I'm scrolling frantically to my claims page because I did have a question. Just, if anyone else has any questions on claims, feel free to jump in.
I'm questioning, I just want to know about the refund for adoption fees. Why are they refunded? Do they bring the pet back, the animal back, or is it some other reason for refunding adoption fees? I have no idea.
That's exactly it. We allow a few, I can't remember if it's 7 or a 10-day period. If it's not working out.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Thanks.
I was just going to clarify, and I can't find the expense right now. It's, I think, a relatively new item that was like the mayor's business fund. I'm assuming it's a COVID response expenditure, but I need to find it here. Sorry.
The mayor's promotion of businesses, those grants.
Yes, that one. Is that a COVID specific?
Can you tell me what page we're on? Just, I believe it is. The Mayor's Promotion of Business Fund is a budget line that that's been there for many years, and
Okay, it looks like it's on page, well, part of it is on page 5.
Okay. Go way up here. I'm kind of wondering.
And then part on page 6, and then there's also part on page 12. So there's like Kyla, if you're talking about like the First Financial Bank line items under the mayor's promotion of business, that's on page 12.
Yeah, that's the one that I was trying to get back to.
Yeah, like two $25,000 ones and two $50,000 ones.
Yeah, that's it. So this is the, yes, this is exactly what that is. This is the loan program that they approved through the city council. And so that these would be part of that program for the COVID recovery.
Okay. Yeah, I just got the acronym, the FAB, I'm assuming is food and beverage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is coming from the funding that was drawn from.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Any other questions on claims?
I had a question about advertising to Gatehouse Media for $76,158. Is that a regular expense, or is that something that just occurs occasionally with advertising?
Can you point
for
the page
Gatehouse?
out again?
I just have the account number 53320. If you want to look that up later, that's fine. That's okay. I don't have the page number.
9.
Thanks, Dana. Gatehouse is going to be.
That's the Herald Times group.
Herald Times, yeah, that's.
Okay, so the actual invoice there is for the $279.88, and the entire 76,000 for that line.
Mm-hmm.
Second here.
Yeah, it looks like that's under the Human Resources Department. That's the total for the Human Resources Department. They had some adjustments that were large on the page.
Yes. Okay, Beth. Yeah. So the actual media. So that's for job postings in the amount of $279.88. The entire HR division's claims for the period was the $76,158. And the adjustments for parks and utilities, those are based on the interlocal agreements and such, where parks and utilities use some, obviously use some of the HR services of the city. So that's what that is.
That's all. Yeah, tied in together. Okay, thanks. That helps.
All right. If there are no other questions on claims, is there a motion on claims?
I move that we approve claims $1,027,615.72.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And if there's no other business for this evening, then I will call for adjournment.
Great. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Have a safe Halloween, everyone.